Okay, yeah. Uh, Good evening, all. Sorry for late. Fine.
Yes, sir, I'm here. Please hold on just for a moment. So, a very positive good evening to all. Even the strongest blizzard star was with a single snowflake. So, with this positive thought, I heartily welcome to you all in this 5 days FDP. So, good evening to our esteemed member of Team Research Foundation of India, our distinguished subject expert, Dr. Kunal Soni sir, and all dear participants. I am Nikita Kandewal, the program coordinator for the 5 days FDP on a systematic way of research paper writing. I heartily welcome you all on behalf of the Research Foundation of India University. This education journey has been made possible through the collaborative efforts of Research Foundation of India in association with Shod, Manama, and with the general sponsorship of JHERF, ARGA, Edu Academy INC. As we all know that today it marks the day 1 of our FDP. But before we head forward, let's have a look on RFI's journey. So, Research Foundation of India is specifically working for the social upliftment and higher education quality and Indian research promotion in the form of events like international national conferences, seminars, workshops, symposium, and other activities. RFIs works for the integration of intellectual ideas across the globe to fulfill the thrust of innovation of humanity, and it is concerned with improving the educational process by encouraging scholarly inquiry related to education and practical application of research results. RFI is working for research and development for higher education, and it has signed MOU with top universities of India. RFI's members are also the faculty, researchers, graduate students, and other distinguished professionals with rich and diverse expertise in education and research. RFI does not take any financial sponsor from any government body. RFI has organized 1,000 plus international conferences and workshops, FDPs, symposia, etc., all over the world. Now, RFI is having 87 chapters in India and 18 chapters in Asian other countries and categorized in 5 boards: West, East, South, North, and Central Zone. So, with this, our hugely knowledgeable person, Dr. Kunal Soni sir, is here on Day 1 of our FDP on the topic hypothesis
Ma'am,
development and testing. But before
sorry, ma'am, there is a lot
we
of
head
background
towards the
noise.
session, let's have a look on SIR's achievement journey. Before I start the SIR's journey, it's my humble request from all dear participants to please maintain the decorum of classroom. Please keep yourself mute. It's my humble request. Thank you so much. Now let's have a look on our expert's journey. Good evening, sir. Dr. Kunal Soni sir is an associate professor of finance and accounting at School of Management, GSFC University, Vadodara. Currently, sir is giving his services at Parur University of Vadodara. In sir's qualification, it includes BBA, MBA Finance, Gujarat Set Management, PhD in Management, Diploma in Foreign Exchange and Risk Management, Postgraduate Diploma in Research and Methodology, and BCom with Taxation. Sir is having total of 10 years of experience in academics and almost 2.5 years of experience in industrial experience also. He is having total of 26 publication in various reputable journals like Scopus, ABDC, UGC Care, Web of Science, etc., including a patent in Government of India under the Intellectual Property Right Act 1970, for which Sir had received the loyalty grant for his innovation in finance on the topic called Techno Innovation and Growth of Indian Share Market. Sir has received 3 Best Research Paper Award in various international conferences organized by different academics, institutions, sponsored by UGCs and AICT, and also awarded. uh, Sorry for the distance. Yes, I'm here, sir. Sorry for the disturbance. Sir has received 3 Best Research Paper Award in various international conferences organized by different academic institutions, sponsored by UGC and AICT, and also awarded with Best Faculty of Management Department at Parul Institute of Management, Parul University, Vadodara. Sir has been invited 130 plus times by various business schools, UGC, HRDCs, and research institutes across India as a part of the resource person and session chair on the various topics for research, data analysis tools and techniques using SPSS, MOS, programming R, eViews, etc. Dimensions, AI, VOS, Viewer, entrepreneurship skills, and ICT tools, research methodology, identification of research problem, compiling references, bibliography, biometric analysis, etc. Sir was PhD guide since 2022 in Veernath, South Gujarat University, and he's an external reviewer for the PhD scholars at Indus University, Ahmedabad, and Pandit Deen Dayal Petroleum University, Gandhinagar, Sabarmati University. Sir has attended more than 20 plus faculty development programs arranged by the IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Vishakhapatnam, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Baroda Management Association, and many more. And Sir has presented more than 19 research papers at various national and international conferences across the India and USA, along with 17 seminars and workshops. With this, Sir is a life member of Grand Academic Portal, GAP, Indian Society of Training and Development, ISTD, Vadodara chapter. He is also the reviewer of Journal of Retailing and Consumer Behavior, Journal of Financial Regulation and Compliances, and Manton, the Journal of Commerce and Management. So with this, without any further delay, I feel it's my good honor to invite the exceptional, highly esteemed Dr. Kunal Soni, sir. Sir is renowned for his precision and expertise in his area. So we are lucky, man, to hear sirs on RFI's platform. So with this, I would like to invite sirs without any delay. So, sir, now the platform is yours. Please hold the focus.
Thank you, Nikita madam, for the detailed introduction. And good evening, all. So today is the first day for systematic writing a literature research paper. Right. So research paper, it's the hunger for all the academicians, right? Because whatsoever the journey that we have to uh, go ahead in our life, right? It completely depends upon the performance that we are delivering in terms of the quality education, right? And when we talks about quality education, right, it always comes from the research and innovation that we are bringing into our respective areas and domains, right? And we talks about the innovations and research. So it always comes from the practicality and the practical knowledge that we perceived in the content of the delivery that we have to portray them among the target audience, right? So it's always be fruitful and advisable that whenever you teach any concept, any topics to the students, so you should have some facts and figures in your hand rather than just going with the monotonous approach of reading the theories and all this aspect. Because when we adopt this kind of approach, the understanding that the students will develop among the concept is tremendous, and that's where you will start gaining the respect from the students, right? So that's where it is very, very important that we should give the importance to the research. But again, the research is a scientific approach. Nobody says that I should write a research in my own way. I understand you can do the research by your own way, but when the writing part is there, so you always follow the guidelines with the respective journals, the agencies where you are planning to submit. And that's where you should be aware about all the fundamental things about the research. And that's why the Research Foundation of India has arranged today this particular faculty development program in a terms, a way of systematic drafting a paper. So with that note, the topic which has been allotted to me is, hypothetic development and testing, right? So it's very, very important concept, that we have to see to it. But without, making, much time, let me share the screen first. Just confirm the screen sharing so that we'll have the more detailed discussion on hypothesis development testing. Right. So I hope this screen is visible. Yes. Okay. So I don't prefer chat box. So if at all you have any queries, or if at all I'm asking any questions, it's always allowed to, unmute yourself and be interactive, because I cannot see your chat box. Okay. So hypothesis testing and design is very, very important for hypothesis testing and design is when researcher needs to write any papers, so this is a topic that, any person needs to prove it, right? That is called hypothesis. So let's quote it as null hypothesis. So before writing hypothesis, can anybody tell me how the hypothesis can be drafted? Is there any fundamental things that we have already designed in our research based on which we can draft in hypothesis? Any specific things based on which we can draft an hypothesis? So hypothesis can be drafted based on objective. I hope it is clear. So hypothesis can be drafted based on objective. Before drafting objective, can anybody tell me what we need to define in research? Before drafting objective, what we have to define in research?
Problem statement.
Research questions.
Okay, research questions.
gap.
Fine. Research questions. How research questions needs to be drafted?
Based on the literature gap, what has not been done.
Yeah. So can I say research gap, research problem, whatsoever you can quote it, right? So this is research gap. How the research gap needs to be identified? How you will find out the research gap?
Based on the survey. Topic. Based on the survey question. I mean, we do a lot of surveys.
Not survey.
From
I think
literature
review. I mean, say literature survey. I mean,
right.
Literature review.
So systematic literature review.
Yes. Sir.
Perfect. So the literature review will be done based on what?
Based on the area of the problem what we have chosen.
Based on the variable that we want to try or testing. Yes. And this variable should be demonstrated where? That should be demonstrated in the title of the research. So always do remember, whenever you draft a title, they should always consist of variable. And based on that variable, you will do the literature review. Based on literature review, you will be able to find out, what already has been done in the past and what you are going to do in the future. And, the difference between the past and future would be considered to be the gap of your research, right? Based on whatever gap that you have find out, so you have to synchronize these two aspects. Based on gap and variable, you will frame a questions. A lot of times I heard, right, in primary research, people are going with the primary data in terms of asking Likert skill questions and all such aspect. Yes or no? Right. So this is how you design a questions. But yeah, when you design a questions, you must take care in mind the objective you want to frame. Or, based on the gap, whatever objective you will frame, the question should be synchronized with the objective and gap. Very, very important part, because ultimately, whatever thesis or research paper that you are drafting, the ultimate purpose is to prove the objective. And the objective should be proven based on the proven things of the hypothesis. And hypothesis should be proven based on consideration of the title. I hope I'm making sense. Right. So ultimately, this hypothesis should represent the title, right? So I always ask in my, all the, seminars and workshops and faculty development program. So can anybody tell me, so first what you will decide? Will you decide your title, or you will make a rough title and then you will finalize your title? What should be the ideal way?
Should be the rough title and then we should.
Perfect. Right, because you cannot decide your title perfect, because if at all you are going for pilot study for any of the study that you want to try, and if in the pilot study, if you notice some mistakes, some errors, so definitely researcher wants to rectify those errors, and before making it finalized, they should go into the process that they should rectify this error and make them research error free, right? And that's where there would be a instance where researcher also needs to modify the titles, right? So it's very important that you first draft a rough title, and based on whatever results that you are receiving, you can remodify the title, so that the synchronization between title, objectives, hypothesis, gap should be justified. I hope it is clear. Okay.
Clear, sir.
So this is the midpoint, right? Based on the topic that we have, it is right, hypothesis, design, and testing. So this is before process, right? This is before process of hypothesis. So somebody is asking me, sir, when we are talking about hypothesis, what are the processes that we already have to undergo, based on reaching to the hypothesis? So obviously, gap, literature review, objective should be clearly defined whenever you reach to the hypothesis, right? So this is a before process, right? All these are before process. Clear? Now let's talk about the after process, right? After hypothesis design, what researcher needs to done, right? After designing hypothesis, what researcher needs to done. So after hypothesis, you have framed the questions. So will you go for data collection? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You will go for data collection to prove your hypothesis. Based on data collection, what you will do?
Data analysis.
Yes, data analysis, right? You will analyze your data. After analyzing your data, what you will do?
Synthesize the data.
Synthesize, or can I say finding and concluding? Clear? Again,
Yes, sir.
at this point also, right? And this process can also be done at the pilot study also. And once your pilot study is finished and you want to finalize your thesis, so this process can also be done at that level also, right? So once this process is finished, right, whatsoever results and findings that you will receive, right? So based on this findings and conclusion, again, you will remodify your title. I hope I'm making sense. And that's where, based on finding conclusion, right, you will make finding and conclusion based on hypothesis. Hypothesis should represent objective. So if at all is any formatting modification is required, you have to do. Based on objective, you cannot remodify the questions, but yeah, you can somehow modify the gap based on the findings that you have it. And based on the findings gap, you will also remodify the title with the consideration of slightly modification in the variables that you have taken for the study. So and that's why the research is considered to be the trial and error process, right? And every process you have to try and test, and based on whatever the trial and error that you have made in this process, based on that you have to justify your study. So that is where it has been said that hypothesis, testing, and design, right? So you have to test your hypothesis and then you have to justify it. Is it clear? This process, hypothesis. Now, in the presentation, we will discuss why we are designing hypothesis and what are the major instances where we need to design the hypothesis. So hypothesis is basically considered about the assumption of the population. Can anybody tell me why this statement is saying that hypothesis is about the assumption about the population? Is there any particular reasons why it has been said? What is the reason for, we are saying that hypothesis is an assumption about the population?
Because if it is not an assumption and if we just conclude it, then we are going biased with our research.
Let's say if I'm in Baroda city of Gujarat state, right, and if at all I'm considering all the 50 lakhs of population which my city is consisting, and I'm doing the survey from all the people, then there is no chances of bias, I think.
Since it's a sample data, so we have
exactly that is what I was looking for, right? So basically we cannot cover the entire population for any study, right, where we have to take a hypothesis. So very, very important point that you always have to take in your mind whenever you talks about hypothesis, or in any study or any research paper, right, or any thesis where you are reading about the hypothesis. Always do consider that this particular thesis, research, research paper, article, all are based on sample study. I hope it is clear.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you are making your entire study on particular sample size, let's say if my city is having 50 lakhs of population, right? But out of this 50 lakhs of population, if I'm only studying 500, right? So just tell me how much is the representation of one particular sample against the population. So population is 50 lakh and my sample is 500. So 50 lakhs divide 110 is 5 lakh, 50,000. So for each sample, I'm concluding the behavior of 50,000 population in consideration of one sample. So do you think that the one person who is doing the same pattern will be followed by the 50,000 people as well? Can we make surety on this? Not at all.
No.
We can say that nearest about the results will be there, but it's not completely. And when we use completely, we use assumption in qualitative aspect, or we can use approximation. I hope it is clear. So hypothesis is basically the approximation of the behavior or about the population based on the sample that we have taken and the study which has been initiated on the samples. Clear? And that's why, based on which we are trying to portray the characteristics of the particular population that we are trying to study, with the having the values of mean and variances. Is it clear? So we are trying to portray the characteristics of the particular population based on the results that we have received for the sample means and variances. Is it clear? Understood? Any questions till now? Okay. And it must be identified before analysis, right? So what I told you, the hypothesis should be identified before data analysis. Clear? And that's why I have took this particular synchronization process to make you understand at what stage the hypothesis needs to be designed, and before a hypothesis, what are the procedure, and after hypothesis, what are the procedures. Clear? So the sync system and the process will be clear in the first instance itself. So, and now onwards, when we are deciding about this particular pattern, so you will not have any questions. Clear? Okay. So testing hypothesis is basically the assumption about the population parameters. We are trying to make the assumption about the parameters of the population, and based on that, we are trying to portray the particular results. Once the data collection of the sample has done, the researcher needs to calculate the sample statistics, right? So here we need to calculate the sample statistics, right? So whether this particular sample is behaving in a particular manner or not, right? So here we have to make certain assumptions. And based on whatever analysis we have done, the judgment would be given in terms of whether the sample data are correct to represent the entire population or not. That is what is nothing but the reliability testing, right? So we have to identify that particular samples that we have taken for the study, are these samples or data are correctly taken? Are they representing correctly to the entire population? If not, then if at all you need to go for the higher collection of the sample size, then also you need to proceed. Just take an example of the 50 lakh population of the Baroda city. So if at all I feel that the particular sample size are not appropriate to represent the entire population, so it is completely in the hands of researcher that if he or she wants to increase the size of the sample, then definitely they can proceed and improve the sample size. So what happens is the representation of one sample to the entire population will drastically reduce. Let's say I have taken 500 sample against 50 lakhs of population of Baroda city. So for every sample, there was 50,000 population representative. But now if I increase my sample size from 500 to 1,000, right? So then this particular population size would be representative of 25,000, right? So from 50,000, now it has been reduced to 25,000 population, right? So this is how the work should be done. Now, what are the basic assumption of testing hypothesis? So the first is you have to validate the data, right? Based on you have collected the data, and you have to determine whether any difference between the hypothesized value and actual value, right? Do you feel that any difference is there in terms of the hypothesized value and the actual value that we have received? And once you will receive any p-values, you need to give the judgment in terms of whether the null hypothesis is accepted or rejected, right? So whatever p-values that you have received, based on which you have to give a judgment that whether this hypothesis is accepted or rejected. And based on which you have to give a judgment whether this particular hypothesis is rejected or accepted. So let's see this first area. So this is in terms of the hypothesis, this is two-tailed test, right? So this is called mu area. This is called center point, or which is called 0 point. This is called plus infinity, and this is called minus infinity, right? So all the minus value will come on this side, and as per the number line, and all the positive value will come on this side, right? So this is minus and plus value. Now this is rejection region in terms of the p-values, right? So this is rejection region of 0.05, right? So if at all, it would be divided into divide by 2, but let's consider it as a 5% level of significance for your understanding, right? So let's say if your p-value is less than 0.05, right? So this is a level of 0.05. So if at all your p-value is coming like 0.000, right? If at all your p-value is coming like 0.012, right? So they all are falling into this area, and this area is called rejection region. This area is called rejection region. And rejection region of what? It is the rejection region of null hypothesis. So whenever in research, whenever you have to give a judgment for any of the hypothesis, right, you always have to give a judgment based on the null hypothesis. Is that clear? You should not give a judgment based on the other hypothesis, but you always have to give a judgment based on null hypothesis, right? So here it is rejection region, right? So all these areas are considered to be the rejection region, right? So if at all your p-values are falling into this area, this is minus and plus in terms of the chi-square value that you are receiving, right? Because p-value is never going to be in minus. So please be clear on that, because whenever you consider p-value, you always receive a chi-square. So there is an inverse relationship between the chi-square test, chi-square value and p-value. So whenever you receive your chi-square value to be on higher side, right? So always do consider that your p-value should be fall into this region. Always do remember. And whenever your chi-square value is less than, very less, right? So do remember that your p-value is always going to be a higher side. And whenever your p-value is going to be on higher side, it always fall into this region. It's always fall into this region. And this is the acceptance region of null hypothesis. Is that clear? Understood? So what is the
give
conclusion?
an example? Could you just please translate this into an actual example? That would make it clearer. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a p-value. That's what I was coming to that point. So this is p-value, right? But the first point which I have explained from this side is, whenever you have to give a judgment for any hypothesis to be accepted and rejected, you always speak in front of null hypothesis. You never use the word called alternative hypothesis. First, it is clear, because if null is rejected, then who is accepted? Alternate. But in research, you cannot write that we will accept alternate hypothesis, right? Because you have to pick up any one hypothesis at a point of time for the consideration. Here, if you are saying that null hypothesis is rejected, then alternate is accepted. Or else you are saying that null is accepted, or we fail to reject a null hypothesis, right? Then alternate is accepted. But here you can see this, we reject null hypothesis, right? The alternate is going to be accepted. But here we fail to reject. So here alternate is not going to be accepted, because here only the null is going to be accepted, right? So even you can see this, we cannot directly write that we reject null hypothesis, right? But we fail to reject null hypothesis. Or rather, we cannot write that we accept null hypothesis, but we write we fail to reject null hypothesis. In a nutshell, whenever you have to give a judgment for p-value, you always use the terminology of null hypothesis. Never ever use the terminology of alternate. And always give your judgment of acceptance of hypothesis based on null hypothesis situation. So null hypothesis situation, will be in the rejection part whenever your p-value is less than 0.05. Right? Whenever your p-value is less than 0.05, right? That means you are falling into this area in both the sides. I hope it is clear now. And this is rejection of null hypothesis in both the sides. Clear? Because your p-value is less than 0.05. Right? Your p-value is less than 0.05. And this is the acceptance region of null hypothesis, because your p-value is greater than 0.05. I hope it is clear. But again, we cannot write that null is accepted, but we write we failed to reject null hypothesis. You just see to it. we fail to reject null hypothesis. If your p-value is greater than 0. We can see this. We failed to reject null hypothesis. Is it clear? Any questions in this kind of things?
Sir, do you want to throw some examples how to calculate p-value? Like, I see some, some of us are not clear about how to, calculate p-value.
P-value will be considered by the software, right? So you have, third or fourth session where you have to, go through the SPSS version, right? So here you can, but let me show you, no issue. I don't mind it to show you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so this is, one of the output file, right? So there are multiple tests that you can apply for the p-value, right? But I'll just not go with the test. I'll just show you what is p-value and how the decision needs to be taken care. Yes, this is a case of normality, right? So let's take this values into the Excel file. Right. So now this is a file in Excel. Right. So now you can see these values. Can you see this significance value?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is considered to be p-value. Clear? And now you can see this value. These all are 0.000. Let's remove this part. Now you tell me, these all are 0.000. So is it greater than or less than 0.05 level of significance?
Less than?
Less than. Okay. Based on less than, now you tell me, if the p-value less than 0.05, will you accept null hypothesis or reject null hypothesis?
We reject null.
I hope it is clear now. So if null is reject, right, here you have rejected null. So if null is reject, then alternative judgment needs to be taken care, right? Because we have to talk in terms of null. So if null is rejected, who is accepted?
Alternate.
I hope it is clear. Right. So ultimately, this is the area of rejection of null hypothesis. This is the area of rejection of null hypothesis. Right. This is area of rejection of null hypothesis. So it is acceptance of. I hope it is clear.
Yeah.
Where your p-value is less than 0.05. Right. So first this case is clear. Right, because we have seen it, no? The p-value less than 0.05 significance. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And here the p-value is greater than 0.05. So this is acceptance region of null hypothesis. So who is rejected? Alternative. So here, whenever you put about alternative hypothesis, so these regions proves significant impact based on p-value, difference of opinion, association, and these regions prove no impact if we are going for any parametric or non-parametric test. So whenever your p-value is greater than 0.05, no researcher like this kind of results. But actually this is result, right? It's not like that every time you will get p-value less than 0.05 and where your alternate is going to be accepted. Because this is also the results. There might be a possibility that no difference could also be the result, right? Who said that whenever you do the study and every time you should find a difference? If at all you know your results, then why you are taking a study, why you are making a sample, why you are making assumption of hypothesis, and why you are making analysis? There is no point of discussion, right? So both are the results, right? But both the results have been, quoted in different way, and it has to be interpreted in a different manner, in a way it has to be. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Once again, can you please translate this into an example like you were doing with the, the population example, something like something
No,
to
it is for sample,
concretize.
madam. Whenever you talks about hypothesis, it's always about sample. Because you are talking about hypothesis. We had initially covered, right? So whenever you talks about hypothesis, it's all about sample. It's not about population. Is it
Yeah,
clear?
what I mean is if you can just, kind of translate this into an actual example.
In an actual example means in a sense, right. So here you can see this. I have taken that, the average marks of the students in account class, it should be 81. Right. So I have taken 20 students, marks as a sample, and I have taken an average. So average was 81. So I feel that if the average of the class of 20 students is 81, so I feel that all students are having 81 marks and there is no difference in the marks of the students. So almost they are nearest to the 81, right? Let's say if I'll go to the lower side, then it is 78. And if I'll go to the higher side, then it is up to 84. Almost all students are falling into this range. So I consider that null is going to be accepted. But if this is not the case, in extreme case, there are 50 marks also and there are 94 marks also. So these two range are very high. So I cannot say that all students are having 81 marks. So if this is a situation is prevailing, so this is 81. So when this situation will come that there is no difference. So whenever your p-value is greater than 0.05, whenever you run the test, you can run independent sample t-test. And whenever you run the test and whenever you receive this p-value, you will conclude that there is no difference in the marks of the students based on the average. And whenever you receive this kind of results, you always need to conclude that there is a difference in the marks of the students. I hope I'm making sense. Now I need to understand, I think you are still confused. Let me ask you personally. Yes, who was there? Madam, who was there? Still, I clear, madam, you are clear or still you have a doubt? Okay. Yeah, okay. Fine. Sure. Fine. Okay, so let's go ahead. So this is where the results will come. So this is significance level, right? So the question is why the significance level has been taken up, right? So we have already covered that hypothesis is basically the assumption about the population based on the total samples that we are taking from the market, right? So whenever we talks about sample study, we are making assumption about the population, and assumptions are all about assumption. It's not a perfect results, right? It's all about the assumptions only, right? So that assumption could be at the 1% level or 5% level, right? This 5% level is, yes.
Sir, I have a doubt. Sir, is it mandatory for all research that hypothesis we should take the hypothesis testing? Without hypothesis testing, can we not make the research paper, sir? Is it
Okay.
not possible?
No, tell me your topic on the top, where you want to make a research paper and why you
Sir,
got this.
I'm doing my research on corporate finance, sir.
Right. So what is your topic, corporate finance, in a sense? What kind of data are you going to collect?
So I am collecting the data regarding the analysis, sir. Regarding the
I understood, but
yes.
there should be some variables, no? To represent
Yes.
corporate finance.
Yes, sir.
So what are their variables?
Sir, I just want to ask, so for all the research, is it
See, why you
mandatory?
need to take hypothesis, I'll tell you. Corporate governance is applicable to where?
Okay.
It is applicable to where?
Sorry, sir. Can you repeat the
Corporate
question?
governance is applied in which places?
In corporate, sir.
In corporates. Okay.
Yes.
So corporate is based on EIC model. Again, I'll come to that part. I forgot to mention the funnel process. Right.
Okay.
So corporate, you are talking about corporate governance. So corporate governance is applicable to industry, or rather it is
Yes, sir.
applicable to entire economy, entire nation. Are you going to study all the companies, all the industry across the nation for corporate governance? Not possible.
No, sir. No,
Right.
not
So what you
possible.
will do? You will fetch the industry right?
Yes.
This entire economy is considered to be population.
Okay.
So out of this population, you are not studying entire population, but you still try to fetch the industry. Again, let's say
Yes,
you come
sir.
into the iron industry. Are you going to study all the companies in iron? Small, big,
No,
all?
sir. A particular
No.
industry I will go with.
Right. So again, out of the sample, you again make a stratified sample. This is random sample. You randomly select your
Okay.
industry. Now you are making stratified random sampling.
Okay.
So you are gradually entering into sampling part, right? Out of this iron industry, you will get the result from the selected iron industry companies.
Okay.
So now you tell
Thank you.
me, are you studying population or are you studying sample?
Population, sir.
No. How can you say that it is population? Your topic was corporate governance. So are you studying the corporate governance for all the companies, all the industry across India?
No.
No. So if
Yes.
you are doing it, then it is your population. But if you are not doing it, you have.
It's a sample. It's a sample. Yes.
Yes, it's a sample. And when,
Yes.
again, I'll come to that part. This is just a point of view of the company. Let's say corporate governance. Are you going to study all the parameters of corporate governance?
No, a particular parameters of corporate.
Then finished. You
Yes.
have to
Thank
come
you
with
so
the
much.
sample,
Thank you so much, sir.
right? And that's where, and you might be aware about one fundamentals of economics, right?
Yes.
When other things remain constant, then
Yes.
when the price increases, the demand decreases. But do you
Yes,
think that
demand
the other
decreases.
things remain constant?
Yes, sir.
No, they cannot. Let's say if you are checking impact of price on the demand, but do you think that
Yes.
government policies, natural calamities will remain constant?
No.
And your
It
result
will
will be
change,
worked
sir.
out.
Not at all. Not at all.
Have you ever
It
thought
keep on
about
changing.
COVID?
Yes, sir.
So other things remains constant is an assumption for some period of time, but actually it is not constant.
Not.
They keep
Yes, sir.
working.
It's not
They
possible.
keep affecting. And
Yes.
that's why we have certain limitations that we are not in a position to cover all the parameters of the research. That's why we are taking significance level, which is called chances of error in the results that we are publishing to the people. So we are committing to the people that this is my result of the study based on p-value. But we are also intimating to the people that you might find the error of 5% if you are going with 5% level of significance. So there would be a chances that whatever results that I'm portraying to you in my study, there would be a variation of my result in 5%. That doesn't mean that it up to 5%, that could extend up to 10% also in extreme cases. Because I cannot keep the other factors to be constant. शायद आपको पता नहीं होगा, आप रिग्रेशन का भी अप्लाई करते हो, तो many times we are checking the impact of independent and dependent variable. Agreed? क्योंकि आप कॉर्पोरेट फाइनेंस से हैं. बट कभी आपने ये देखा है कि रिग्रेशन का जो फॉर्मूला है y इज इक्वल टू अल्फा प्लस बीटा x1 beta 1 x1, that is x1 x2, beta 2 x2, right? So beta represents slope line for x1 and beta 2 slope line for x2, and this is error term. मान लीजिए कि ये दोनों आपके significant आ रहा है, right? That they are making impact on y, x1 also and x2 also. But what if these error terms are coming on higher side? That shows that although you have proved the result, but if this error term is coming on higher side, so this result says that although you have proven that this x1 and x2 is having an impact on y, but these other factors are also showing significant impact on y, which we have not taken into study. So if at all you want to remove your E1, you have to extend your variables. You have to introduce x3, x4, x5, and so on, so that you reach to nearest to your study. And that's where you will try to prove the impact of certain variables on certain, some particular variable. That is why.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. So yes, this is what it should be. And this is how different tests. So, you have to design various tests. Like here it is normality test, right? So normality test, we have to design in a sense the data are normally distributed and data are not normally distributed. This is one assumption. And based on that, you have this significance value. So now you are well versed to take a decisions. It is all less than 0.05. So it is falling into rejection region of null hypothesis. So if it is falling into rejection region of null hypothesis, so the ultimate conclusion is alternate is accepted. And alternate says that the data are not normally distributed. So you tell me, if the data are not normally distributed, so are you going with the further analysis in terms of parametric or non-parametric? You might have the HPSS classes, right, after 2 days. So you tell me, right, is it parametric or non-parametric? We are going to apply parametric or non-parametric? Tell me. If data are not normal, are you going to apply parametric test or non-parametric test?
Non-parametric test.
Yes, non-parametric test. Right. So whatsoever results that you have to demonstrate in the further analysis, it is applicable as non-parametric test. Is it clear? Understood? Okay. Then you see this parametric test. So again, this is a hypothesis. No difference, right? So only the parametric test hypotheses are reverse. So null hypothesis is positive and alternative negative. Rest of all the hypotheses in the world are null hypothesis is negative and alternative is positive. Right. But acceptance and rejection criteria for the hypothesis remains same. You can see this p-value is 0.000, which is less than 0.05. Can anybody tell me which hypothesis got accepted? Null or alternative? Now you should be clear on that part. If p-value is less than 0.05 level of significance, so which hypothesis got accepted? Null or alternate?
Alternative.
Null.
Perfect. The person who said alternate is correct. Because p-value less than 0.05, this is rejection of or null. If it is rejected, this is accepted. And henceforth, we can see this. There is a significant difference of opinion, right? Yeah, same way you can see over here, these are different factors for online banking. You can see this. Out of this factor, you can see the significance value, p-value, right? So only this p-value is less than 0.05. Can you see this? So these factors proves to be, statistically significant difference. And rest of all are, believing in H0 to be accepted. Here it is H0 accepted, here it is H0, because they are all p greater than 0.05. I hope I'm making sense. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So if H0 is accepted, so your conclusion is no statistically significant. Yeah. Okay. And if at all you are finding anything to be significant, and if you want to indulge into more detailed analysis, let's say this is, this is an analysis of age group, and these factors prove to be significant. And I want that I have taken 4 to 5 age group, and out of this age group, which age group is making difference of opinion, then I need to check the mean rank. Right. So if you see this, the highest mean rank, which has been noticed, right? And the p-values, you can see this. This is, this is the values. You can see this again, p-value. So this above 60 years people are making significant difference of opinion towards the factor of user friendliness for online banking in comparison to this other group of people. So this group of people are having same opinion, but these people are having difference of opinion towards the user friendliness of the online banking, right? Because if at all you are not having this factor to be significant, you don't have to go for the further analysis, because this is called post hoc test for ANOVA. I hope you are aware about it. This is post hoc analysis. Is it clear? And post hoc analysis can only be done for all the hypotheses where H1 is accepted, not for H0. I hope you're aware about it. Is it clear? Okay, so that's it from my side. I'm making this session open for the question answer round. So yes, if at all you have any questions, you can ask me. Please, boliye. Any questions, any suggestions, or anything you want to? Oh, sorry. Right. So this is just let me know. Okay. Yeah, please. Any questions, any suggestions, right? Or else you want to ask anything about your study where you want some assistance. So please ask me. Any questions? Yes, please, madam. You can unmute and you can ask, no issue.
Well, actually, I am a little puzzled because my research area is not doesn't involve quantitative data at all. So I'm a history person, social science person. So our data is of a very, very different kind. I'm just wondering if there is any applicability at all of this kind of methodology to non-quantitative and more qualitative data-based research.
Basically, qualitative data, if you have, you can go for descriptive study. Right. And, if you want to analyze some opinions, all this aspect, then you must go for the NVivo software. It is the best software for, qualitative data analysis where you can inject, some paragraph, some opinions, some interviews, some clips on that part, So that things should be, analyzed on that and you will get a results.
Sir, can you please repeat the software name?
NVivo, NVIVO, NVIVO.
Okay.
Any more questions? But yeah, if at all you have any doubts, you can, if you need some, NVivo software, so I have the access, so you can anytime, contact me. I'll guide you accordingly, right?
Sir, will I be getting guidelines to write a research paper?
Sorry?
Sir, will I be getting a guidelines to write a research paper because I'm new to this domain?
Yeah, definitely. There are certain guidelines to write a research paper, right? So I have already, put my, numbers on the, you can also take it from chat box, also no issue. But yeah, there is a specific guidelines to write a research paper, right? So that you all have to follow. Systematic way of writing research paper is very, very important, because if you follow all the structures, all the parameters, right, then only your paper will get accepted. And most importantly, you have to respect the author's guideline for all the research paper that you are drafting. So if at all you are not, respecting those things, it will be difficult to, digest all these things. But yeah, if at all you are new and if you need some guidance, so yeah, I have, put the numbers on the, for your reference. So anytime you can ask and I'll definitely guide you on that front.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Dr. Prakriti, madam, you can ask.
Sir, I'm from applied science, so it is mandatory for us also that we can take in our research hypothesis testing. Because when we are doing PhD in 2016, I was awarded in 2015. Then it is not mandatory for us in our field, But nowadays, in my, I have 3 students as a PhD. So that's why I'm confused that it is mandatory for today's PhD hypothesis testing, or it will be okay.
See, this is very open-ended questions, right? But yeah, to have a specific answer to your question, can you give me one topic of your PhD students, right, for understanding what should I answer?
Sir, for example, we are talking about, we are doing a research in integrated fish farming.
Okay.
That is in simultaneously with the right.
Oh, yes. So obviously your applied science is there. So you ask to the farmers about the results and applicability part, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So obviously you have to compulsory.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right. Yeah. Any more questions? Please ask your questions, or if you feel not comfortable, so obviously you can reach out, no issue. But yeah, any more questions, please? Yes, Vinay.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes,
Good
madam.
evening.
Please. Yes.
Sir, I wanted to ask that I'm from management social sciences. I wanted to know that most of us are
You are from where, madam?
management, sir.
Are you in from MP or something?
I'm from Chhattisgarh,
Okay.
Raipur.
Right.
Yeah. I want to ask, sir, that most of us are making the hypothesis in context of either checking the differences between the 2 or more samples, or predictive analysis through regression, or checking the correlations, or most of us go through either chi-square test to check the interdependence of fit or differences. Apart from that, sir, what are the scope of making the hypothesis? Apart from all these area,
You can see hypothesis is anything, where you are not aware about the result. First of all, the basic fundamental of designing hypothesis is like this. Many a times, people are, sometimes it happens with me also, people do listen my lecture for 1 hour and they try to apply in that way. But what I believe is research is a, continuous connectivity journey. For 1 hour lecture, you cannot prove yourself to be on the, all the sides. So half-hearted knowledge is always a killing aspect, right? First of all, this is one aspect. Second is hypothesis needs to be designed, so always be connected, whosoever you feel in your area who is good in research. So always take a guidance and, stay updated and, take a help of it rather than making a wrong work. Now answering about your question is, so hypothesis is basically fundamental assumption about the population. So hypothesis can be framed for any result or any research problem where you are not aware about the results that you are looking for based on the problem that you have defined. It's not about that you are designing the hypothesis for association, regression, and all this aspect, first of all. But yeah, through that things you are trying to establish the relationship about all this aspect, right? So obviously you can obviously define, again, the people are not clear when to use which kind of word for which kind of data analysis tools that you are applying for hypothesis testing. I have noticed, yesterday only I was in one of the university where I was awarding PhD degree to one candidate as an external referee for the PhD candidate. So in that case, earlier they were calling few other person and he has guided that you should write an impact, write an impact on so and so particular, marketing product on the consumer buying behavior. Now you tell me, when you are using a word of impact, then how can you make the chi-square on all this aspect? Which test is applicable for the impact?
sir, regression.
Right, regression. So they are applying chi-square on all this aspect. Right. So sometimes people are killing the research aspect. Second thing, your question is, should we apply the hypothesis on other tests? Definitely. If you are going for the exploratory analysis, right? So there are certain hypotheses for exploratory analysis also. If you are going from exploratory to confirmatory, where you are trying to build your model based on mediation, moderation, partial moderation, dependency, independency. So obviously you can make the hypothesis for those also. But ultimately, whenever you are designing your hypothesis, it completely depends upon the objective and the logic behind which you are making this study to on air. And that logic should be demonstrated in the title of the study. So very, very important that you should justify those things on very front ground. And based on that, you can define the hypothesis. But yeah, hypothesis defining is very important because you are not studying the population. Because in management, it is not at all possible. Whether you are from finance or marketing. Are you from finance or marketing?
Some from marketing.
Marketing, right? So obviously you cannot cover up the entire consumers, right? So you have to go for it. But yeah.
Sir, actually, I came to, sorry to interrupt, sir, I came to read somewhere that suppose three techniques are there we are using for advertising. Some of the people, they frame up hypothesis like this X particular technique is the most used technique in the research. And this is the not most used technique in this. Such kind of hypotheses are framed up or not, sir? Is that very feasible or? So that's why my question is there, because most
important, agar aapko pata hi, if you know it, then why you are doing research?
Sir,
are you trying to prove कि भाई नहीं आपको नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, उनको ही बोल रहा हूँ कि भाई आप इसके लिए रिसर्च कर रहे हो कि भाई not important and important, right? That people has already defined based on the data and the sales figures that market has received. You want to see that this particular objects of this particular this particular method has been fulfilling by the people or not. Or if at all it is most important usable. So for usage aspect, what is the difference of opinion and difference of purpose of usage that you have noticed between different industries, different employees based on different economical background, based on the age factor, based on the seniority. So that is where you have to find out the usage of difference. But it's not like that this is an important and this is a not important. I don't know. I'm wondering which kind of data they are collecting for this kind of analysis and hypothesis, and what is ultimately they are trying to prove as a part of title. Very sad part, told
Sir,
this. And
most of our studies on marketing, most of the studies on event management, sir, they are basically typically covering the regression. If you are aware, most.
Yeah, yesterday only
Yeah,
I had the same
90%.
case. And
Yeah,
even in the
90%.
hypothesis they have written, let's say if they are asking the person that, last 10 years, are you using edible, some particular marketing product? I don't want to disclose the name, but they are they are writing that, in hypothesis, they are writing from last 1 decade. How can you make a time frame in the social science research where it is a primary research you are asking to the respondent to answer? Do you think that the respondent will answer based on 10 years, where buying one particular product, I forget, immediately by tomorrow, right, what I have purchased today? So would you think that I would be able to answer you for the one particular product, which is very minor thing, which my wife is handling for me, and I don't bother what she's spending? I'm not asking at all for the billing aspect also, where you have spent, what you have spent. And for that, you are asking me that, you should answer me as a 10 years of data. What is the impact, where it is used? I know it. No, it's not possible. And how can you mention the time frame for primary research data in the hypothesis? And they are proving it. And the same
Actually,
case,
sir,
regression
yes,
was also applied. But regression, if you want to apply for the primary data, you have to go for discrete regression. You cannot go for linear regression. It is a killing of research. See, software has no mind. If you put a data, software will generate the results. But are you making justice to your research? That's very, very important. If at all you are putting age, gender into regression, and if you are getting an error term, what the hell people will do this kind of results? That's why it is very, very important to have assistance of the right kind of person who is knowledgeable in this case, right? And if at all your idea is good, but if at all you are not demonstrating the right kind of tools and objectives for your research, you will lose your journey. The journal will first instant will throw your paper out. If you are focusing upon Scopus and ABDC kind of paper, they will not accept it.
Right, sir. Actually, I know this very well, sir, but I came to know in the vicinity of all such kind of hypothesis. So I think I may be ignorant that I'm not aware of such kind of things. So just to confirm, I asked you, sir. Thank you.
That please take
Yeah.
care. Please take care. No, it's not allowed. We feel that, for PhD thesis in all universities accepted. I'm not talking in front of universities, right? Because the situation is very worst.
Yes, sir. Right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Any more questions? Any more questions, please? Okay. So I think we are on the concluding part. So thank you so much, all the participants, for your patient listening and be interactive during the session. I hope this session will be useful to you for your research journey in the coming time period. And I hope your purpose has been served for joining this FTP at RFI platform. And with that note, I would like to sincere thanks to RFI team for inviting me. Saurabh sir, Ajay sir, and most importantly, Nikita madam for the wonderful introduction. So thank you so much, all participants. But yeah, anytime if you feel any problems, you can always reach out to me. I have posted my number in the chat box also, right? So please be connected with the RFI platform, right? We are arranging that much good kind of FDP workshop for the enhancement of faculties, right? So at this platform, at least you will gain certain things which you have to change little bit afterwards for your research journey. So yes, thank you so much once again. Over to you, Nikita madam, please. Nikita madam, are you here? Yograj sir? Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.